Guys, this is Ginger Cook, and this is Ginger's Gems. And you have asked me from your comments about shadows. That's what people want to know, because shadows are created when light hits an object, either a tree or a book or a pear or still life. And so how the shadows look and how do you know where the shadows go? So we're going to just do some brief, fast rules you can remember that you can write down, and just this will make painting shadows much easier, okay? So in this particular still life, which is in our academy lesson, we have a book in an orange, and we've got a little bit of some shading on this side of the orange. We know the light's coming from this way, and it's coming pretty high up because it's kind of coming pretty high up, probably about like that, because the book, this orange is casting. Well, this orange is casting a pretty long shadow, so it's probably more over here, and this part of the orange is casting a shadow. We really don't see anything from the book because it's behind us. So this orange peel right here is casting a shadow that's going off the table. So our light's probably coming from about here, not way up here. It might have multiple light sources, but this was originally done in the 1800s, and we teach this tutorial in our academy. Conversely, this is a YouTube video that we did last year, and it's normally it's a still life that's maybe some people might find more challenging. I don't want you to think about that, because actually we do the step by step. It's pretty easy, but again, we've got fairly short shadows considering here on the pot and on the garlic, but we know that the light source is coming from here, so there has to be a shadow that's coming out this way. But now, how do you decide how long or short to make a shadow? If we go back down to, let's look at this photograph of nature. We've got some trees. We can see from the light on the logs that the light is coming from this direction, okay? But it's actually pretty low, and the reason we know that is it's not up that high, because these shadows are very long, because the lower the sun is in the sky, okay, this is just way key here, right? The lower the sun is in the sky, okay, the longer the shadow. Isn't that cool to know? So in the morning, early morning, the sun might be very low as it's coming up, so you'll have these long shadows. These are obviously caused from some trees off camera. Our trees are over here somewhere that are causing these long shadows, okay? The shadow from this tree is going that way, okay? And these shadows are caused by something that's happening over here. This is why reference photos are kind of key. And we know that because of the logs being lit like this, right? Now, something else that happens to shadows is that they follow the terrain. So notice that, let's do a green one here. Notice that this shadow goes bopping along like this and then comes up over the log. Do you see that? It's following the terrain, boop, boop, and then it goes up. Boop, boop, goes up, goes up, goes up and out, okay? So your shadows need to do that too. They need to follow the terrain. So let's give an example of how that might be. This is a beautiful example right here of some shadows that are following the terrain. Here's some snow, and they're coming down here and going whoop back up, right? And down here and going whoop back up. Now, obviously, we know from what I just told you, the time of day on this is either early morning or late afternoon, because how long the shadows are, okay? But what about this picture? It's a snowy picture, and we don't see any shadows. So what time of day is that? Well, this is flat light. If you have very flat light, like an overcast sky, particularly in a winter sky, you won't see any shadows. You might see, let's just take a close look at this photograph, and I'll just let you just magnify up something here. So, for instance, even on the snow here, it might slightly be darker, but even underneath here, you really, except for the pole, you're really not seeing any shadows, okay? You might have some lights and darks in the snow in general, but no shadow specific. How's that? Let's delete this. Why did I do that for a second? Yeah, here, let me delete this. There you go. Okay, so no shadow specific. And incidentally, this is a side point, has nothing to do with this tutorial, but please never have a branch going out of your canvas. Don't paint it just like that. Just by the way, don't do that. All right, so what about this picture right here? Here's a still life. We've got a little bottle of poison. I don't know why that just appealed to me for some reason today. Now, look at the shadow on the cork. See that? So the light's kind of coming from this direction, okay? But it's pretty low because look how long the shadow is, okay? And this was set up artificially by whoever took the photo. And sometimes one of the things you've got to watch for when you're just randomly going over to Paint My Photo or one of these free photo places where you can just get some reference photos is that a lot of the people are amateur photographers. They're not concerned with the light or the light source. They might have multiple light sources, which is going to make it very difficult to paint those pictures. Start looking for the right light source. Ask yourself, where's the light source? Do they have too many lights shining on the object? Have they made it interesting? You know, is the shadow, where are the shadows and how will that help my painting? Now, if I come back up here to, let's come back over here now to this photograph. This is another example of the painting that we have in our academy, okay? So you know we've got the light coming here because you can see the light on the cactus. Yes, and we've got some purple shadows. They're not real long. So it's probably, it's not early morning and it's not late afternoon, okay? There's a few of the taller ones crossing the road, but not too much. The shadows are still kind of short. And what I did was I had a reference photo for this. I didn't make it up. That's the key. Look, have a reference photo. It helps to know the rules, but have a reference photo anyway. Let's see, I showed you that one. Where's this one? Here's another example. This is a tutorial we have on YouTube. Here's another example of flat light. This is winter lighting. You might see some bits of gray and light just for contrast, but there's no glamorous shadows like you saw back down here in this piece, right, in this winter piece, okay? There just aren't. In this particular painting, which was very popular last summer on YouTube, you'll notice that the shadows are, the other thing is the shadows are lighter than what they're, than where the object is. They're going to be lighter than the fence. In this case, I painted in sort of a soft blue, very much like the snow. And remember, they follow the terrain. So if you see how long these shadows are, then what I'm saying is it's late afternoon or very early morning. It's what I said by saying these shadows were that long. And again, I didn't make it up. I had a reference photo. Here's a fast example of, this is part of our Back to Basics series. We have a whole series of videos, like 25 videos on basic painting instructions. It's called Back to Basic at gingercookondemand.com. And this is an example of the lights kind of about here. Whoops. Let me just show you about here. And so we have a short shadow. And this was an example of how to blend a sphere, but also there was a good example on why the shadow was like that. And the other thing is to remember that the shadow, as it goes away from the object, gets lighter, okay? So in summary then, if we're talking about summary then, let's just look at this picture. Let's just summarize. We know that shadows follow the terrain of a landscape. Look at these. This is so fun. I love it when we do this. Let's do that. Let's follow the terrain. It's going, okay, the light's coming where? From here, see? Wait a minute, I'm going to say the light's coming from here, okay? And the terrain is going, it's going to down here like this. It's following the terrain, yeah? All the shadows are doing that. They're not just straight, okay? So that's key. They're not straight. They're not, we don't have just real straight shadows. So it's not straight, because if it's straight, then you're just saying it's straight downhill. It's not bumpy. See what I mean? If you do a straight line. It may be, but make sure it's following the terrain. The farther away you are from an object, the softer the shadow. Shadows are longer in late afternoon and early morning. When the light is overhead, the shadow is the shortest, okay? Or maybe non-existent. The lower the light source, the longer the shadow. So the lower, if you were setting up a still life, the lower you put the light on it, if you're shining a light on it, the longer the shadow is going to be. So if you're setting up a still life and you say, okay, I've got these 3 objects and I want the shadows to be kind of long and all cool looking, then you would lower the light source. Flat light from overhead clouds will not cast a shadow. So if you remember those things, right? Remember those things. Here's another example of flat light in a photograph. It just doesn't cast a shadow. Incidentally, it's an interesting photograph, wouldn't make a very good painting, but that's part of our painting design class, which is a little bit different. But if you can remember these things, examples of flat light, examples of light where the light is the lowest, examples of where shadows are following the terrain, start finding, this is another thing about start finding your light source. And then when you come back and want to paint, something like this, you're not going to just stress over the shadows, and you're going to sit there and say, oh yeah, that's a long shadow for that orange peel and for this orange. I'll bet that the light was lower, and you'll know that stuff. Isn't that cool to know? So again, I'm going to ask you a question. What else would you like to know about shadows? I'm making a list. There's something else you want to know about painting that would help you. Please put it in the comments. And we appreciate you sharing the gems. If you like these, we want to keep doing them. And the more you share them and the more people see them, the funner it is for us to make them, okay? So we're just not shouting down a rain barrel here with this stuff. So you can help. If you want to help and you appreciate this, that's a nice way to show appreciation. Share the videos, put them in a playlist. And again, thank you for subscribing to our channel. And I hope, seriously, that this business of the shadows is all you ever need to know about shadows now. Well, we're going to talk about color of shadows in another video.